So, picture this. Have you ever found yourself in a spot where you needed to tell someone what to do in Spanish? Like give a piece of advice or just direct some action, but the words completely escaped you? Yeah, it's a super common hurdle. But what if I told you that overcoming it literally gives you a kind of linguistic superpower? Seriously, think about it. You're moving from just describing the world around you to actually directing it.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are taking a massive leap forward in your language journey. We're mastering the Spanish imperative, specifically looking at affirmative and negative commands straight out of pages 13 to 16 of the Libro 2 del Estudiante manual. Learning how to command absolutely transforms you from a passive listener into an active director of the conversation. By the end of this, you'll be confidently telling people to dance, drink, write, and a whole lot more. All right, real quick, here's our roadmap for today. 1. What is the imperative? 2. Regular affirmative commands. 3. Regular negative commands. 4. 8 key irregular verbs. And finally, 5. Commands in real life. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. What is the imperative?
Okay, so what actually is the imperative mood? Well, it's the grammatical form we use to give orders, instructions, or advice to someone else. You can think of it as the action director of the Spanish language. You aren't just stating a fact like you are eating. No, you're commanding an action. Eat your food. And the cool thing is, it covers everything from a super polite request to a strict rule given by a teacher. Moving right along to Section 2, regular affirmative commands. Okay, here's your master key for regular verbs. Let's look at the pattern for our 3 main verb endings, AR, ER, and IR. We'll use bailar for dance, beber for drink, and escribir for write. Now, for the informal too, like when you're talking to a friend, it's incredibly straightforward. You basically just use the third-person singular present tense. Baila, bebe, escribe. Simple, right? But watch what happens when we move to the formal usted and the plural ustedes. Look at that vowel shift. For the AR verb bailar, usted becomes baile, and ustedes becomes bailen. The A literally swaps to an E. And it works the exact opposite way for ER and IR verbs. The E or I changes to an A. Beba, beban. Escriba, escriban. This vowel crossover is absolutely fundamental to Spanish commands, so definitely keep it in mind. Section 3, regular negative commands. All right, this is where the plot thickens a bit. We're shifting gears to the strict counterpart, negative commands. And this perfectly illustrates the vowel swap rule for the informal too. Just look at the affirmative, baila, bebe, escribe. Now look at the negative. No bailes, no bebas, no escribas. You see, to form the negative to command, you don't just slap a no on the front. You actually have to swap the characteristic vowel and add an S. So for AR verbs, the A becomes S. Baila becomes no bailes. For ER and IR verbs, the E becomes as. Bebe becomes no bebas. Escribe becomes no escribas. It's actually a super satisfying rhythmic rule once you get the hang of it. And here's how that negative vowel swap plays out across the entire board for regular verbs. We just covered that to column, right? But take a look at the usted and ustedes columns. Notice anything? They are exactly identical to the formal affirmative commands we learned a minute ago, just with a no placed right in front of them. Baile simply becomes no baile. Escriben becomes no escriban. So honestly, the heavy lifting here is just remembering that tricky to conjugation. Master the informal negative, and the formal ones are a total breeze. Section 4. 8 key irregular verbs. Now we have to talk about the rebels. These verbs absolutely do not play by the standard rules we just went over, at least not in the affirmative to form. These are your 8 must-know irregulars. Decir, hacer, ir, poner, salir, ser, tener, and venir. Because you use these all the time in everyday conversation, their command forms have gotten totally shortened over centuries of use. You basically just have to memorize them. So let's break them down into bite-sized chunks. Here's our first batch. Notice how short and punchy these affirmative commands are. For the ser, to say, it's di, like tell me, dime, but the negative is no digas. For hacer, to do, it's haz. Do it, hazlo. The negative is no hagas. And for ir, to go, it's ve, go, but the negative totally shifts to no vayas. So the big takeaway here is that while the affirmative do command is clipped and irregular, the negative to command follows its own distinct pattern, which actually pulls directly from the subjunctive mood, if you're familiar with that. Continuing our drill, pay attention to the rhythm here. Poner, to put, becomes pon. Put it here. Ponlo aquí. The negative, no pongas. Salir, to leave, is sal.
get out, sal. The negative is no salgas. And ser, to be, is sé. Be good, sé bueno. The negative is no seas. Don't be bad, no seas malo. Seriously, practice saying these out loud right now. Pon, no pongas. Sal, no salgas. Getting the literal mouthfeel of these contrasts is hands down the fastest way to lock them into your memory.
Wrapping up our 8 informal irregulars, we've got tener, to have, and venir, to come. Tener is ten, and the negative is no tengas. Venir is ven, and the negative is no vengas. Notice how both of these follow a really similar G insertion pattern in the negative. Ten becomes no tengas, ven becomes no vengas. Spotting these little mini patterns makes tackling irregulars so much easier.
Before we move on from the irregulars, I want to quickly show you how this all relates back to the formal usted. Let's use hacer as our prime example here. We know the informal is as and no hagas. But look at the formal usted. It's haga and no haga. You see what happened? That irregular G that popped up in the negative informal hagas actually carries right over to form the base of the formal commands. This is a super consistent rule across most of these irregulars. If you know the negative too, you essentially hold the key to the formal commands too.
Section 5, Commands in Real Life. All right, let's step out of the grammar tables and into real life. Imagine the frustrated tone of a parent or a teacher in a super loud classroom. Niños, no griten. Kids, do not yell. This is a perfect example of a negative, regular command directed at a plural group, ustedes. The verb is gritar, which is an R verb. Because it's plural and negative, we do that vowel swap from a to e and add the n for plural. Gritar becomes no griten. It's direct, it's clear, and it's grammatically flawless. Let's switch gears to a much more polite, formal tone. Imagine a host welcoming you into their home, or a hotel receptionist. Ponga su bolso aquí, por favor. Put your bag here, please. Right here, we see ponga. This is the formal usted command for the irregular verb poner. Remember our rule from a minute ago? The informal negative was no pongas. So we take that G, drop the S for the formal singular, and boom, we get ponga. It's polite, it's respectful, and it directs action beautifully. Finally, take a look at this illustrated advertisement from the source material. The text says, pague menos por el seguro de su coche. Pay less for your car insurance. Pague is the formal affirmative imperative of the verb pagar, to pay. Ads almost always use the formal usted because they want to address the consumer respectfully while still giving a very direct instruction. Since it's an R verb, we see that vowel swap to A, along with a tiny spelling change to keep that hard G sound. This is the imperative mood out in the wild, literally trying to save you money. So, bringing it all together, what are your main takeaways today? To master the imperative mood and become a true director of action in Spanish, you really just have 2 main jobs. First, mind your vowels. Remember that crucial vowel swap rule for formal commands and negative to commands. Second, memorize your 8 key irregulars: decir, hacer, ir, poner, salir, ser, tener, and venir. If you've got those in your back pocket, you are well on your way. Knowing how to give instructions, offer advice, and set boundaries is an absolutely massive step in fluency. It completely changes the dynamic of how you interact with the language. So are you ready to take command of your conversational Spanish? Practice these rules, speak them out loud, and start directing the action. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Don't forget to like this video and leave a comment. Tell me down below, which irregular verb do you find the trickiest? Oh, and before you go, chew on this. Now that you know how to command people, how do you politely suggest things without sounding too bossy? Well, that requires a whole new mood, the subjunctive, and that's a rabbit hole we'll have to explore another day. Keep practicing, and I'll catch you in the next one.